In the following video, we're going to examine how to determine the number of solutions for the quadratic function f of x equals x squared plus 30x plus 225. I remember in the previous videos, we've looked at examples of two solutions and no solutions. Remember that solutions represent what we call roots, what we call zeros, and what we call x-intercepts. All four of those words are interchangeable. So when I say we've looked at examples involving two solutions already, that means we've looked at parabolas that have two x-intercepts. No solutions mean no x-intercepts. So let's take a look at this function and see how many solutions we're going to have here. So get your graphing calculator, go to y equals, let's type in x squared plus 30x plus 225. And now I'm going to make sure that my window size is the standard -10 to 10. And a quick way to put it from that -10 min to +10 max on both the x and y axis is to hit zoom. If you go down to option 6, zoom standard, the standard graph is from -10 to 10 on the x-axis and -10 to 10 on the y-axis. So I hit that. If my window size were changed from previous examples, it'll put it back to what it originally was. So I'm going to hit enter and then take a look. Again, like we did in the previous video, we don't see anything. We don't see any of the curves. If we're looking for a parabola, we want to see this is opening upwards, should be going up and to the left, should be going up and to the right, and you should have the curve for the vertex. I mean, we should see a U shape. And right now, if I look at my graphing calculator, I don't see anything. So again, we have to logically figure some things out. If I were to take a look at this, I would know my graph is going up. And remember that your 225 represents the y-intercept. And so we should be crossing the y-axis at positive 225. So that's a clue that we need to make sure that we can at least increase our y, so maybe we can see our y-intercept. And I need to increase my x's on either side to see which one it is. So I'm gonna go to window. Let's try -40. I'm gonna check and see maybe if this graph is on the left side first. And I'll just keep 10 as my max so I can check the left side. And I'm gonna make my intervals, we'll go ahead and do 5s. And then my y-min, and I have a y-intercept of 225. So my y-min, I can leave as is, see what happens. I can even decrease it more to see, am I going to have multiple intercepts? So let's decrease it. Let's make it -50. 225 is my y-intercept, so let's try 250, because then we'll for sure see the y-intercept. And we can go by, let's do 10s on our y-scale. And so this is the viewing window that I want to use for the first time and see what happens from there. So I'm going to hit graph. I see the graph come down. I see my vertex, see the graph come up, and there's my y-intercept. So this is actually a very good window size because I can see my y-intercept, I can see my vertex, and I see the entire U shape of the graph for it. And so if I take a look, how many x-intercepts do we see? And it comes down, it hits the x-axis, and it bounces up. And so there is only, in this example, one x-intercept, which means there's only one solution. And now we're going to use a calculator and we're going to determine the zeros or the x-intercepts, the solutions of the graph. So remember how you do this. Go to your calculator. If you ever want to find any point on the graph, it's in your calculate menu. So second trace pulls up our calculate menu, and option 2 is 0. Hit enter. The graph is going to ask you left bound, so mark to the left of the x-intercept. We can see our x-intercepts here. I'm marking to the left of it. Hit enter. And then your calculator says right bound. So make sure you're to the right of the x-intercept. And I can see I'm to the right of it here. So I'm going to hit enter again. And then it asks me to guess. And for guess, if you want, you can move it closer. You could hit enter right away. I'm going to hit guess, enter. So I have my 3 questions the calculator asked me. Left bound, mark a point. Right bound, mark a point. And guess, mark a point. And when I follow those directions from the calculator, it should then, when I hit enter one last time, tell me what my 0 is. Now, this is good. Your calculator's telling you, at least my calculator's telling me negative 14.9999999. And that, don't write that down. I mean, you have to have some logic when using your calculator. That's the number negative 15. And so the zeros, the x-intercept, is x equals negative 15. So sometimes you have to be careful. You can't 100% trust your calculator. You have to understand there are times where its answers may not be 100% accurate where you can just copy down. You have to, again, apply some common sense to it. Determine the vertex to this quadratic function. So I have, when we're finding the vertex, the first thing we always do is we find our axis of symmetry. And that's x equals negative b over 2a. So x equals negative 30 over twice a, which was 1. So you get negative 30 over 2, which is negative 15. So that's my axis of symmetry. I plug that into my function, y equals, it was x squared plus 30x plus 225. And our x is negative 15, so we get negative 15 squared plus 30 times negative 15 plus 225. So y equals negative 15 squared is a positive 225. 30 times negative 15 is negative 450. And then plus 225. And this gives me 0. So my vertex is actually the coordinate negative 15 for my x and 0 for my y. So when I want to sketch this graph, using the zeros, which was negative 15, and using the vertex, which was negative 15, 0, I'm also going to want to use the window size that we use in our graphic calculator to assist me with sketching. And so here I have all my pieces of information to assist with the sketch of the graph. My window size, my 0, and my x. So when I go from here, I'm going to kind of try to mark this. We know our 0 is at negative 15, 0. That's my vertex as well. My x min was, I said negative 40. So let's go, here's negative 20. Here's negative 10. And here's negative 30. My x max, I just did 10, so I'll just mark 10. I could finish the rest if I wanted to. My y min, I have negative 50. My y max is 250. So I can make this actually 300. And so here's 200. Here's 100. So here's 50, 150, and 250. Just like this is 5, negative 15, negative 25, and negative 35. You know, my y min is negative 50, so here's negative 100. There's negative 50. Now I'm told my vertex is negative 15, 0. That's also my 0 itself, my solution, my x-intercept, my root. And the graph we saw in a calculator goes up. We also saw that our y-intercept was 225. So here's 250. So here's 225. So I can actually even mark my y-intercept to help with that. And if you want, remember, this is your axis of symmetry through the vertex. You are 15 units away from the y-axis. So if I'm at 15, I can go over to 30, use the idea of reflection 15 units in the other direction, and mark another point over at 225. And that applies the idea of an axis of symmetry. And then I curve my graph up, go through the y-intercept, create my U shape, go through the other point I found, and we see here is our graph. Again, let's kind of walk through this. We used our calculator window size, found the zeros for it, found the number of x-intercepts, used our axis of symmetry to find our vertex for the graph. Now in this scenario, when we have one solution, remember, what do you notice about your solution? What do you notice about the actual 0? And what you should notice is that when you have one solution, your root, your 0, your x-intercept is also the x-coordinate of the vertex, because it's going to come down and hit that point and then bounce off. So we've seen all possible solutions to quadratics. 2 solutions, 1 solutions, and no solutions for this. We've examined how to use our calculator to assist us for finding the zeros and how to use our calculator to set up an appropriate window size.